Shalom, shalom from Jerusalem, where a Jewish year draws to an end and a new one waits to begin. It is a special new year, this one, the 40th since the birth of Israel. The end of that 40-year period of grace for the Jewish people that could be so fateful for all of us, we who live in this incredible era of the beginning of the redemption. And it is also the end of the third year since our very special miracle, the election of Kahane to the Knesset. And what a miracle it has been, from the election itself until this moment. What a pity that you cannot be here to see for yourself on a regular basis the unbelievable support, no love, that the mass of people here show and give us. Our rallies are not political gatherings, but love fests. I stand on the platform at these outdoor rallies and watch the faces of the hundreds gathered to listen. The faces of Amcha, the ordinary people, the ones who understand so much better than the so-called intellectuals, the real issues facing Jews in Israel. I speak of the terrible and unbelievable events taking place in Israel. Attacks on Jews, the murder of an 8-year-old child, of a 30-year-old mother and her 5-year-old child, of young soldiers giving every year parts of their lives in army service and reserve duty, only to return home to unemployment because greedy Jewish employers prefer cheap Arab labor. Arabs who do not serve in the army, who give nothing to the state, but rather dream of destroying it. I speak to them of the fact that at the very moment that I am speaking, Arabs are with Jewish women in coffee houses and worse. Jewish women who, for the most part, come from communities who never knew such abominations when they were in Morocco, or Syria, or Iraq, or Yemen. The Jews listen as I speak of the 4,000 Jewish women married to Arabs, of the 10,000 others who merely live with them, of the fact that the prostitutes of Israel are Jewesses, and the pimps, overwhelmingly Arabs. I speak of the enormous Arab birth rate, and of the Jewish abortions, of no aliyah, and Jews leaving Israel, of the Galilee already having a majority of Arabs, of the little triangle, just behind the major Jewish coastal centers of Petach Tikva, Ra'anana, Kfar Saba, Herzliya, and Netanya, being solidly Arab, of cities such as Jaffa, Ramleh, Lida, Akkar, Upper Nazareth, rapidly becoming Arab cities, of Jerusalem, with its 150,000 Arabs. I watch their faces and know that they know what will be here in 10 years, if we have that time, in terms of a Jewish or Arab state, of how many Knesset members will be Arabs. For after all, Israel is a Western democracy with full political rights to Arabs. And I know that they know what democracy and demography can do to the Jewish state, to Zionism. I know that they know. And I watch their faces as, for the first time, someone says all the things they have been thinking about. Thinking, but afraid to express them. And then they hear the answers, the Jewish answers. For the first time, someone is not afraid to say that this land belongs to Jews only. That the Arabs who massacred us in the 1920s and 30s and 40s still harbor that same dream, the dream of Itbach al-Yahud, slaughter the Jew, and are convinced that time is on their side. For the first time, someone stands before them and before the authorities, who represent all the fear with which these people were raised. For the first time, someone says openly, not for my sake and not even for your sake, but for the sake of your children, these little ones standing here. And how the little ones come out and shout, Kahane, Kahane, Kahane. And how the left knows that this future generation that never knew Begin but only knows Kahane will be the one to send Kach to power. and Kahane to the prime ministership, please God. For the first time someone stands before the people and without that pernicious form of Jewish AIDS, guilt, says, for the sake of your children, the only answer is, remove the Arabs from the country. And you watch the faces suddenly shine with hope and smiles crease them as I continue, and I speak of Jewish pride and the tradition they once had when they were in the exile, and that was ripped from them in the Holy Land by the left, and of how we, Kach, will make the state Jewish, really Jewish, and how their children will rise each day and say, happy are we, how good is our lot, how good it is to be a good Jew. It is then that you see real happiness, real joy, real ecstasy. And at the end, when we conclude with Hatikva, we always conclude with Hatikva, and who else does? And in fact, who else goes out on rallies, as we have done for the past 3 years, almost every night, speaking in literally every single city and town and village in Israel, and in many of them 5 and 6 times. When we conclude with Hatikva and with the words, Am Yisrael Chai, and I rush into that crowd, and they hug and kiss and embrace and bless and weep, then you know that the leftists and the destroyers of Israel really do have every reason to be afraid of, please God, Prime Minister Meir Kahane. And please God, that will be. For God has been incredibly good to us. He has saved us from a combined steamroller of political parties, police, courts, radio, television, newspapers, intellectuals, the entire power structure of Israel that has, thank God and thanks to Him, been unable to destroy us as they so fervently desire. It is incredible that despite an outrageous fascist-type boycott of me and of Kach, which lasted almost 3 years, in which we were unable to be on radio or television, our popularity has grown to such enormous heights that private political party polls show us with 11 seats. And I believe that that is an understatement. I believe that tens of thousands of people in the development towns in poor areas are never polled. I believe that other tens of thousands are afraid to admit that they will vote Kach and say something else to the pollster. I believe that hundreds of thousands of Jews who are afraid to say the word Kahane in public will quietly vote Kahane the next election. I believe that myriads of people who always voted Labor will vote for Kach, because the overwhelming majority of the population, right or left, can no longer be deceived concerning the reality of the Arab threat from within. I believe that, please God, this next election will be an earthquake for Israel and the Jewish establishment. There will be no government without Kahane and Kach. And we will make our first demands on the way to making Israel a state that will survive and that will be really Jewish. Never again will an 8-year-old child, Rami Chaba, be murdered by an Arab who smashed his face so badly that there was no face left. Never again will an 8-year-old Nav Elimelech's body be found cut to pieces. Never again will Arabs rape and murder a 15-year-old Dani Katz in Haifa. Never again will soldiers be murdered as they hitchhike within the borders of Israel. Never again will Jews be afraid to walk in the old city through Damascus Gate. Never, never again. When will the elections be? For a long time I was convinced that they would be soon. Indeed, given the conditions, the absurd happenings here. A two-headed government whose prime minister declares no to an international conference, while the foreign minister pledges yes, whose foreign minister goes to Cairo for talks on that conference, and the prime minister tells a press conference that he hopes the talks will fail. Given this insanity, in any normal country, such as Papua or Togo, elections would have been held long ago. But as much as I wanted elections 2 years ago and last year, I see how God has been good. For every month that passes sees us growing more and more in strength. And an election that last year would have given us 4 to 5 seats, this year, please God, will give us 10 or 12. And next year, we live today in an era of historic magnitude, a messianic time that will see either instant and glorious Jewish redemption and glory, or first, God forbid, terrible tragedy, worse than any we have yet known. I believe with all my heart that the Kach movement is the hope of the Jewish people, of the state of Israel. We are the carriers of the authentic Jewish idea. We must succeed for the sake of every Jew alive. And we will if every Jew can free himself of the apathy and unwillingness to give of himself. If every Jew will throw off the most terrible Jewish sin and crime of the Holocaust. Let me tell you what that was. As the terrible Holocaust inexorably ground on, the Jews in the gas chambers beseeched the Jews of silence in the free world to save them. And among the Jews behind Hitler's Nazi curtain was the saintly and legendary Rabbi Dov Ber Weissmandel. In a letter that will forever remain an indictment of murder against the Jews of the free world, Rabbi Weissmandel pleaded for a loud and piercing outcry, as he wrote, for the bombings of the death camps and of the roads and bridges leading to them. And he concluded his letter with the following words that sear the soul and shame the Jew until this very day. He wrote, "Drop all other business to get this done. Remember that one day of your idleness kills 12,000 souls. You, our brothers, children of Israel, are you insane? Do you not know the hell around us? For whom are you saving your money?" Think of those words. For whom are you saving your money? The words so frightening in their staggering directness and simplicity. All that money banked away and stored away, and worst of all, spent away on nonsense and frivolity, and almost obscene luxury and self-indulgence. All that money that might have been spent to publicize daily the awesome tragedy, to create daily the demonstrations and protests and actions that might have saved hundreds of thousands of Jewish lives. All that money. And for whom were we saving it? Why, for ourselves. We saved our money or spent it on frivolous vanities, and our brothers and sisters died. Who can ever forgive us? Who can ever rid our ears of the question that dins ceaselessly? For whom are you saving your money? I sit here in Israel and see the awesome tragedy that threatens us as some black cloud of catastrophe, and once again know that Jews can be saved, and that the state can be redeemed, that the Jewish people can be spared the agony of Holocaust, if only the Jew will be prepared while there is yet time, too little but yet time, to give of it. And what will we say in the time of agony when we know how much could have been done and how different it might have been had we opened our hearts and our hands and we given of ourselves? We hold our fate within our own hands. We can bring Jewish redemption, glorious and immediate, if only we understand, if only we act upon that understanding. Kach has the opportunity in the next election to be the third largest party in the Knesset, the balance of power, one that is poised to take power in the election following, if you will ask yourself, for whom am I saving my money? If Kach would have the sums needed to establish offices in every town in Israel, if Kach would have the money to set up clubs for young people in every city in Israel, if Kach would have the funds to advertise and leaflet in every place in Israel, we could gain power in Israel, and we could bring the final redemption. And so the question returns to you. For whom are you saving your money? God forbid that after tragedy has struck, you will weep and ask, indeed, for whom was I saving my money? Let us never again repeat that terrible sin. The terrible sin of the Holocaust. The struggle for Israel's survival is in your hands. We, you and I, we can save our people. We can bring the redemption. We, you and I together. Help me. God has been good to American Jews. Hopefully to you. That is why you owe him. We're going to raise, please God, $250,000 for the election campaign that began a long time ago. One does not wait until the official beginning of a campaign to raise money. We started to run for the coming election the day after the last one in 1984. We have done wonders, but must do much more. From now until the high holidays, we must raise that $250,000. And I ask you to help, not me, but us, make the sacrifice. I ask from you at least $100 for the year. Is that really too much? I'm not asking for an institution or a yeshiva in Israel. I'm asking for Israel, without which there will be no institutions. What a great day it will be, please God, when Kach comes to power, when Kahane is prime minister. What a Jewish day. What a holiday. Let us bring that day closer. Help me to save the Jewish people from their enemies and from themselves.